In water engineering, pipes and pumps are only part of the system. Decisions about what is built, who operates it, and how it is financed are governance and procurement choices, engineering controls that shape risk, cost, performance, and long-term sustainability. This episode examines those controls using international guidance and sector practice. Where you hear observed fact, the claim is traceable to cited sources. Stated assumption makes the working hypothesis explicit. Illustrative example is conceptual to clarify trade-offs, not a factual account of a facility. Recommendation ties proposals to documented guidance. Chapter 1. Why governance is an engineering control. Observed fact. International guidance treats governance as a system defining roles, responsibilities, and decision processes for water utilities, aiming to address stakeholder needs rather than prescribing a single ownership model. ISO 2454, 2023. Stated assumption. Governance is taken here as a system-level control that can be designed, audited, and changed to influence technical outcomes such as reliability, resilience, and lifecycle cost. Illustrative example. In a mid-sized city utility, unclear decision rights let engineers, politicians, and operators act on different priorities. Investment choices, procurement quality, and handover can suffer, producing inconsistent asset condition and operational readiness. Recommendation. Treat governance as an engineering control. Document decision rights, link them to technical criteria, and integrate stakeholder needs into decision loops. Use an established governance framework to make these linkages explicit and auditable. Chapter 2. Roles, accountability, and decision rights. Observed fact. ISO governance guidance emphasizes explicitly defining roles for responsible bodies, operators, and decision processes, so responsibilities and accountability are clear. This approach applies across ownership and management models. Stated assumption. A clear mapping of roles to decisions reduces ambiguity in procurement, specification changes, and operational handover, lowering the likelihood of disputes and inconsistent outcomes. Illustrative example. After a contract award, an undocumented change to specifications can trigger competing claims if contract administrator, technical authority, and operator responsibilities are not defined, leading to delay and cost escalation. Recommendation. Publish a decision rights matrix linking specific decisions, scope changes, commissioning acceptance, and warranty claims to named roles and escalation paths. Include the matrix in procurement documents so bidders understand the governance environment. Chapter 3. Standards versus local requirements. Observed fact. Sector guidance can be adopted or adapted. The EPEC Guideline for Quality of Water Infrastructure from 2018 positions itself as a non-binding, adaptable framework covering planning, design, procurement, implementation, and operation and maintenance, and recognizes the need to adjust to local circumstances. Stated assumption. Local legal and regulatory requirements are often mandatory and may constrain the choice of international standards. A deliberate mapping between international guidance and local rules is necessary before finalizing procurement. Illustrative example. An internationally recommended dosing standard may conflict with local discharge limits or procurement law, requiring alternative approaches or extra compliance steps. Conformity assessment must include both standards and local regulation. Recommendation. Early in project development, perform a standards to law reconciliation. Document which international standards are adopted, which are adapted, and where local law imposes different or additional requirements. Record these decisions in the procurement baseline. Chapter 4. Procurement as a lifecycle decision. Observed fact. Procurement frameworks for investment-financed projects treat procurement as governing acquisition of goods, works, and consulting services, with an explicit aim to support development outcomes and achieve value for money. These frameworks apply to projects using investment financing modalities. Stated assumption. Procurement choices determine lifecycle cost drivers. Capital cost is visible at award, but operation, maintenance, reliability, and adaptation costs accrue over decades. Procurement strategy must therefore consider total lifecycle outcomes, rather than awarding on short-term lowest price alone. Illustrative example.
Supplier A offers lower capital price, but shorter warranty and no spare parts commitments. Supplier B charges more upfront, but includes longer warranty, local spares, and operator trade. Over the asset life, supplier B may deliver lower total cost and risk.
Chapter 5. Specifications, Evaluation, and Value. Observed fact. International guidance stresses transparent, appropriately detailed specifications and evaluation methods to achieve quality and value, and recommends aligning procurement with governance and lifecycle objectives. Stated assumption. Transparent evaluation methods reduce bid protests and make trade-offs between technical quality and price clearer, improving the defensibility of procurement decisions. Illustrative example. If a tender states lowest cost or best quality without a consistent evaluation method, bidders cannot price risk reliably and evaluators cannot justify choices. Clear pass-fail thresholds and scoring conversions are essential. Recommendation. Publish evaluation methodology showing how technical scores convert to weighted outcomes. Include objective pass-fail thresholds for critical technical elements and clear documentation requirements. Attach these rules to solicitation documents to reduce ambiguity and enable fair competition. Chapter 6. Contract Changes and Evidence. Observed fact. Procurement and governance frameworks emphasize that procurement is part of the project lifecycle and that contract changes require traceable decision processes. Contracts and procurement procedures must manage scope changes while preserving value for money. Stated assumption. Effective handling of contract changes depends on predefined governance and contractual mechanisms, delegated authorities, change order processes, and clear evidence standards for claims. Illustrative example. A contractor claims unforeseen subsurface conditions. If the contract defines the required evidence, approval path, and valuation method, the claim can be assessed promptly. Without these rules, disputes can halt work and inflate costs. Recommendation. Embed change order procedures in contracts. Specify authority levels for approving changes, require standardized evidence for claims, and adopt valuation methods aligned with value for money and sustainability objectives. Maintain audit trails for accountability. Chapter 7. Operations, Maintenance, and Handover. Observed fact. A lifecycle view extends procurement concerns to operations, maintenance, and capacity building. The APEC guideline explicitly treats operation and maintenance and capacity building as part of the infrastructure lifecycle. ISO links governance to operational roles and stakeholder needs. Stated assumption. Handover failures commonly reflect procurement and governance gaps. Missing documentation, absent spares, insufficient training, and unresolved warranty obligations impede operation and increase lifecycle cost. Illustrative example. An operator receives a technically correct plant, but without spare parts, manuals, or training, and cannot sustain design performance. Construction quality alone does not guarantee operational readiness. Recommendation. Make handover deliverables contractually enforceable. Require as-built documentation, spare part lists, training, and operational trials as conditions of acceptance. Tie final payments and warranty start dates to successful handover, consistent with lifecycle and governance objectives. Observed fact. Procurement frameworks governing investment-financed projects set standards to achieve value for money and sustainable development outcomes. Sector guidelines recommend lifecycle and transparency considerations. Stated assumption. A concise checklist improves defensibility by ensuring consistent treatment of governance, specification, evaluation, contract clauses, and handover requirements. Illustrative example. The following conceptual checklist operationalizes the documented guidance. It is illustrative, not regulatory. Recommendation. Defensible procurement checklist. Illustrative. Governance. Document decision rights and escalation paths. Publish governance documentation with the solicitation. Standards to law reconciliation. Record which international standards apply and where local law imposes different requirements. Procurement strategy. State whether the objective is lowest evaluated cost, lifecycle value, or development outcomes. Align with the financing procurement framework as applicable. Evaluation methodology. Publish weighted criteria and conversion of technical scores to evaluation scores.
Include pass-fail thresholds for critical items. Contractual change processes. Include delegated authorities, evidence standards, and valuation methods for claims and change orders. Handover and acceptance. Require as-built documentation, training, spare parts, and operational trials for final acceptance. Auditability. Maintain procurement records and governance decisions to provide transparent audit trails consistent with donor or financing requirements. Implementation and decision framework. Engineering trade-offs made explicit. Observed fact. The sources describe governance, procurement, and lifecycle considerations as linked elements. Guidance promotes adaptability to local circumstances and alignment with development and value for money objectives. Stated assumption. Decision-makers benefit from a reproducible framework that lists options, decision criteria, and trade-offs, enabling transparent selection among procurement and governance approaches.
Step 1. Define objectives. Clarify whether priority is capital cost minimization, lifecycle cost optimization, reliability, local development, or a combination. Align objectives with the procurement framework if investment financed. Step 2. Establish a governance baseline. Use a governance framework to assign decision rights and stakeholder engagement responsibilities. Record escalation paths where roles intersect. Step 3. Map legal and standards obligations. Perform the standards to law reconciliation to identify mandatory requirements and adaptable elements. Step 4. Select procurement strategy. Choose procurement modalities and award criteria that meet objectives and lifecycle needs. Document how the choice supports value for money and development outcomes. Step 5. Define specifications and evaluation. Draft measurable, testable, technical, and contractual specifications. Publish evaluation methodology and thresholds. Step 6. Allocate risk and contract mechanisms. Design clauses and change order procedures that allocate risk to the party best able to manage it, with clear evidence standards for claims. Step 7. Require lifecycle deliverables. Make operation, maintenance, training, spare parts, and handover trials enforceable contract items. Step 8. Maintain audit and transparency. Keep records of governance decisions and procurement actions to enable accountability and organizational learning. Engineering trade-offs, explicit examples. Risk allocation versus market interest. Shifting unforeseen subsurface risk to bidders reduces the authority's risk, but may reduce competition or raise prices as bidders price that risk. Balance procurement objectives against likely market responses. Short-term cost versus lifecycle value. Selecting lowest capital cost can increase lifecycle costs through higher maintenance, downtime, or replacement. Lifecycle-weighted evaluation addresses this trade-off. Standardization versus localization. International standards support interoperability and benchmarking. Localization ensures legal compliance and may build local capacity. Standards to law reconciliation identifies where to standardize and where to adapt. Closing summary. Observed fact. The three guidance documents discussed here collectively frame governance, procurement, and standards as interdependent instruments for achieving sustainable, high-quality water infrastructure outcomes. Stated assumption. Applying these instruments coherently, aligning governance documentation, procurement strategy, standards reconciliation, and lifecycle deliverables improves defensibility, transparency, and technical outcomes of water investments. For any capital water project, assemble a short governance procurement package early. A decision rights matrix, a standards to law reconciliation, a procurement strategy that includes lifecycle-weighted evaluation criteria, and contract clauses tying handover and warranty to operational acceptance. Use these documents to guide procurement drafting, bidder queries, and evaluation. Where projects are subject to investment financing, align the procurement approach with the financing procurement framework to ensure compliance and to achieve stated sustainable development objectives. A defensible procurement decision is therefore an engineering decision. It makes responsibilities visible, tests lifecycle value, records local constraints, and leaves an auditable path from requirement to operation. This discipline protects both the project and the people who will rely on it.